We're here at the ARC Forum in Orlando, Florida, talking with Dale Malony of Honda about IoT leadership and subjects for improving manufacturing operations. Dale, let me ask you a question about the leadership aspects of it. You know, we have different silos typically in manufacturing, particularly IT and OT is one very big silo. Can you talk about how the leadership team can break down those silos and have some cross-functional cooperation?
Yeah, sure. For one, the IT silo or organization, let's not call them a silo, they don't like that. They're well established. The OT organization is not well established yet. The IT standards are well established and they're important. They really value those standards. The OT standards are not yet established. And so when we talk about digitization of a factory, we're talking about doing something that we haven't been done before. So the idea of doing it by adhering to existing standards in order to innovate, that it's kind of mutually exclusive. You can't have both. You have to figure out a mentality of standards that you know you're going to have to develop in the process of this OT model. And then when you figure out your innovation, you figure out the way to do it, then you standardize on that. So we have a lot to learn from our IT friends about how to do standardization in this new space. But we have to innovate and define what that space is going to be before we set those standards. And so that kind of challenge there is something that we're very aware we have a lot to learn and a lot to figure out, a lot to define.
This idea of standards for IT-OT convergence and adoption of the industrial Internet of Things is interesting. Could you talk a little bit about management's role with that, establishing the standards, or was really management not involved, it was more of the teams getting involved? Could you talk about how that evolved at Honda?
Yeah, absolutely. I think management, there's multiple different parts of management, and some parts of management understand that this opportunity is here, that there's value to be had there. They don't necessarily know how to do it. So to have management find those people who have those concepts of where the values are, because it's not necessarily an awareness of technology that's going to drive this change. In order to get the return on investment, those high ROI targets of what you're going to actually do, that's got to define what you actually do. The management needs to enable you to get in touch with those people who are really aware of where those values are to be obtained, and then to pick the people who are going to figure out what your strategy is. They may not be your typical managers. They may, you may not want to have the same people that are really good at leading the way you know to run your business, to have them be the ones that are defining the new way of doing things. Sometimes you want somebody that's a little bit more daring, a little outside the box, maybe surprises you with coming up with some of the ideas of what you're going to do. So when management finds those people and enables them and connects them with people who really know where your pain points are, know where those values are, how people are frustrated, where are people struggling to get things done. Connect those two together and then back you, even sometimes when it gets a little difficult. That's what we need most from management in this kind of change.
Very interesting. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the users that are affected by industrial IoT projects and digitization and digital transformation. You know, they have to go through some change. They have to adopt new practices, new workflows perhaps, with the adoption of these technologies. Could you talk about a little bit of how you get those people to buy in and to accept the change, to become a positive influence in the success of the project?
Well, that's really the bleeding edge right there. And it's something that we're working through right now. I mean, you're right where we're at, because there are naysayers to this activity. There's people who think maybe, oh, you're going to collect all this data and automate it and take our jobs. And what we're really trying to convey to people is, if you really think about what you're doing, you're spending a lot of time doing things that are not really value added. They don't take advantage of your intelligence, they just take your time. And maybe you could become a lot better at what you really want to be a professional at if you automate some of those tasks, if you let these technologies streamline your tasks. And if people comprehend how you're really trying to help them be better at their job and not trying to replace them somehow, if they can comprehend that opportunity, and maybe those things are frustrating or annoying to them, that's where you'll get that buy-in.
Excellent, excellent. I'm going to go a little deeper on this just for a moment, because I know lean manufacturing, you may have a different name for the program, but you use those kinds of philosophies to continuously improve your manufacturing operations. And certainly IoT can map into some of the things that they do and help those teams. So is continuous improvement program involved in some of the IoT adoption?
Well, continuous improvement at Honda, I had an interesting conversation about this recently where I was talking to someone at another company that had an official continuous improvement program leader. And it kind of blew my mind, because continuous improvement is so embedded in the Honda culture that everybody has that job. I mean, everybody has safety, everybody has reliability, everybody has continuous improvement. It's just part of the Honda culture. So yeah, the answer to that question would be then no. It's not part. We don't even have a program. So when I identify those pain points, when I identify those opportunities, essentially I've already engaged the continuous improvement program.
Okay, all right. I'm going to bridge over to something else now that has been a hot topic at the forum here, and it has to do with cybersecurity. And there's a lot of, initially I used to think about it as paranoia, but I've come to realize that it's a long shot, very, very legitimate. There are significant concerns. Could you talk, and of course the Internet of Things involves the internet, so we have to be concerned about cybersecurity. Could you talk about that topic at all in the context of Honda?
I can tell you that in our awareness of cybersecurity in the industrial controls domain, that while yes, there are industrial control specific malware, and yes, there are systems that are necessary in order to detect and prevent that type of thing, the predominant threat, the predominant actual concern is not hackers and malware. It's the things that we do accidentally. It's the things where there's a network problem. Maybe something is communicating to a device that shouldn't be, because we didn't segment and isolate our network the way that we need to. So we enable things to interfere with each other by not having a good network architecture. And so as we go to connect all these smart devices that we're just not paying attention to the data in, we need to do that with an architecture that we don't create a problem and actually make things worse. So the medicine needs to make you better, not make you worse. So getting the skill set up to speed within our engineering and our maintenance teams so that they can have some confidence in how to do this properly, get trained. There's unknown unknowns there. We need to identify what our architecture should be and how we can train people how to do that properly. And then you get to the next level, because we know that accidents are going to happen. Problems are going to be introduced into our network either accidentally or, worst case scenario, an adversary is attacking. And you have to be able to detect those situations and contain them, keep them from spreading. And then you have to have a backup and recovery plan in place. You have to know that you have a recovery, how are you going to restore all your machines that may have been affected back to a normal operating state for good quality production.
Yeah, so it sounds like you have a multi-level security plan, and in addition to that, a backup plan or recovery plan in case something bad does happen.
Absolutely. I'd just say, sum it up, you want to prevent what you can, you want to contain what you can't, you want to detect it, whatever it is that's going on, and recover. You've got a plan for those four things, you've got a good cybersecurity plan, hopefully. So one final point, I want to emphasize that if there's any one thing that we need to focus on when it comes to digitization and manufacturing, it's context. That you have to look at all of your data, not in isolated segments, but all in context together, that tells the rest of the story, the whole story.
Well, Dale, thank you very much for talking with us. Very interesting conversation.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. We're here at the ARC Forum talking with Dale Malony of Honda. Thank you.